The Dutton legacy was never built in peace. It was forged in blood, loss, and impossible choices. And in 1944, when the world was burning in war, the Yellowstone Ranch faced the most dangerous chapter of its history yet. This is not just another prequel. This is the moment that decided who the Duttons would become forever. 1944 is the year where everything collides. The Yellowstone Ranch still stands, but it is no longer protected by isolation or tradition. The world has changed, and war has reached even the most remote corners of Montana. While soldiers fight overseas, a different kind of battle is being fought at home. The Dutton land is under pressure from every direction: government interests, rival landowners, rising costs, and a future that refuses to wait. This is the era where survival is no longer about strength alone, but about sacrifice. At the center of it all stands Spencer Dutton. He is no longer the wild, broken man we met in 1923. Time has hardened him. Loss has shaped him. He has buried the love of his life, raised a child alone, and carried the weight of the ranch on his shoulders for years. By 1944, Spencer is a man who understands that leadership comes with a price, and that every decision leaves scars. The war has taken the best years of many young men, and Spencer knows that soon it may come for his family too. His son, John Dutton II, is no longer a child. He is standing at the edge of adulthood in a world that offers no mercy. Raised on stories of sacrifice and survival, John grows up watching his father fight battles that never make headlines. He learns early that the ranch is not just land. It is responsibility, legacy, and a promise written in blood. As the shadow of war grows larger, John is forced to ask the question every young man of that era must face: protect the land that raised you, or answer the call of a country at war. But the danger does not only come from outside. Old enemies sense weakness. New players smell opportunity. With manpower stretched thin and resources rationed, the Yellowstone becomes more vulnerable than ever. Every fence line matters. Every deal carries consequences. Trust becomes a rare currency, and betrayal feels inevitable. The Dutton name still commands fear, but fear alone is no longer enough to keep the wolves away. 1944 is not about glory. It is about endurance. It is about fathers trying to prepare their sons for a world they themselves barely understand. It is about the cost of holding on when letting go would be easier. As war reshapes the nation, the Yellowstone Ranch becomes a battlefield of its own. One where legacy is tested, family is strained, and the future of the Dutton bloodline hangs by a thread. And this is only the beginning. By 1944, the weight of the Yellowstone no longer rests on one man alone. The ranch is becoming a burden passed from father to son, whether either of them is ready or not. Spencer Dutton has spent years protecting this land with his fists, his instincts, and his willingness to cross lines others would not. But now, age and loss have slowed him just enough to realize the truth. One day soon, the ranch will no longer be his to defend. John Dutton II stands in that shadow, learning what it means to carry a name that invites both respect and violence. He is old enough to work the land, old enough to understand the cost of survival, and old enough to feel the pull of the war beyond Montana. Everywhere he looks, young men are leaving. Some return broken. Some never return at all. And John knows that no matter what choice he makes, it will define him forever. Spencer does not know how to teach his son to lead in a world that is tearing itself apart. He was raised to survive, not to explain his choices. So instead of speeches, he teaches through action. He shows John how to stand his ground when threatened, how to read a man's intentions before he speaks, and how to live with decisions that cannot be undone. These lessons are not gentle. They are harsh, sometimes cruel, but necessary. The Yellowstone does not forgive weakness. As the war intensifies, the government's reach grows longer. Paperwork becomes as dangerous as gunfire. Rationing tightens. Rules change. The ranch is asked to give more while receiving less. Spencer sees the trap forming. Compliance means control. Resistance means consequences. And once again, he must decide how much of himself he is willing to sacrifice to keep the land free. Meanwhile, John begins to question the path laid out for him. Is the future of the Yellowstone worth the blood it demands? Or is there honor in leaving to fight a war that claims to stand for something bigger than land? These doubts create tension between father and son, not from hatred, but from fear. Fear of loss. Fear of becoming someone they no longer recognize. 1944 turns this relationship into the emotional core of the story. Every argument, every silent stare, every shared moment carries unspoken weight. Because both men know the truth. Time is running out. The war will not wait. The land will not wait. And the Dutton legacy cannot survive unless one of them is willing to step fully into the fire. By 1944. The Yellowstone is no longer just a ranch. It is a symbol, and symbols attract enemies. With the world distracted by war, powerful interests move quietly, testing the boundaries of the Dutton land. Deals are offered with friendly smiles and hidden knives. Some threats arrive wearing suits instead of guns, promising progress while planning erasure. Spencer understands this kind of danger better than anyone. Violence is easy to spot. Betrayal is not. As pressure builds, Spencer faces the hardest truth of leadership. You cannot protect everyone. The ranch demands loyalty, but loyalty is fragile when fear takes over. Men who once stood shoulder to shoulder now question whether the Dutton name is worth dying for. Every decision Spencer makes saves one future while destroying another. And with each choice, he feels the distance growing between the man he was and the man he has become. John Dutton II watches all of this closely. He is learning that legacy is not inherited, it is earned. He sees his father make enemies by doing what is necessary, not what is right. And slowly, John begins to understand that the Yellowstone does not survive because the Duttons are good men. It survives because they are willing to become hard men when the world demands it. This realization changes him. The innocence of youth fades, replaced by something colder, sharper, and far more dangerous. At the same time, the cracks inside the family deepen. Old secrets resurface. Choices Spencer made in the past return with consequences he can no longer outrun. Another son, born of another life, exists in the shadows of the Yellowstone story. Two bloodlines, one name, and a future that cannot hold both without conflict. Spencer is forced to confront the truth that legacy is never clean. It is messy, painful, and often unfair. But it is unavoidable. The war only makes everything worse. News from overseas arrives slowly, and when it does, it carries grief. Friends do not come home. Boys return as strangers. The ranch feels emptier, quieter, and more fragile with each passing season. Supplies run thin. Tempers run hot. And the question of who will carry the Dutton name forward becomes impossible to ignore. 1944 pushes every character to their breaking point. It asks what a family is willing to sacrifice to survive. Love. Morality. Even each other. Morality. Even each other. The Yellowstone has endured generations of violence, but this time the threat is different. This time, the danger is not just losing the land, it is losing the soul of the family that fought to keep it. And as the storm closes in, one thing becomes clear. The Duttons are standing at a crossroads. The choices made in 1944 will not just decide who owns the Yellowstone. They will decide what the Dutton name truly means for generations to come. 1944 is remembered as a turning point, not because the war ended, but because something else was lost along the way. By this time, the Yellowstone has been pushed to its limits. Every battle fought on the land leaves a mark, and every sacrifice made for survival takes something back in return. The ranch still stands, but it no longer feels invincible. It feels earned. Spencer Dutton reaches the moment every leader fears. The realization that no matter how strong he is, the future will move forward without him. The choices he makes in this year are not about winning anymore. They are about shaping what remains. He knows that the Yellowstone cannot survive on fear and force forever. But letting go of control may be the most dangerous risk of all. John Dutton II steps into a world that does not ask if he is ready. It demands action. The lessons he has learned, the pain he has witnessed, and the losses he has endured begin to harden into purpose. This is where the boy disappears and the Dutton patriarch is born. Not in victory, but in responsibility. Not in peace, but in consequence. The war's influence reaches its emotional peak. News from overseas collides with tragedy at home. Some wounds never heal. Some decisions can never be forgiven. And yet, life on the ranch continues because it has to. That is the Dutton way. You endure. You adapt. You survive, even when survival costs more than you ever planned to pay. 1944 does not give easy answers. It shows the price of legacy in full. Every fence built, every enemy defeated, and every alliance broken leads to the Yellowstone we know. This is the year that explains why the Duttons become more ruthless, more protective, and more isolated with every generation that follows. When the dust finally settles, one truth remains. The Yellowstone was not saved by heroes. It was saved by people willing to carry the weight of impossible choices. And the echoes of 1944 will shape the Dutton family long after the war ends. This is not just a chapter in the Yellowstone story. This is the year that defined it. 1944 is not just another chapter in the Yellowstone timeline. It is the missing link. The year that explains the silence, the severity, and the unbreakable rules that define the Dutton family decades later. Every hard choice made here echoes forward into Yellowstone, shaping the men and women who will inherit this land and its burdens. This story strips the Dutton legacy down to its raw core. No romance. No myths. Just survival in a world that offers none. It shows how war at home can be just as brutal as war overseas, and how a family can win everything and still lose pieces of itself along the way. When Yellowstone 1944 arrives, it will not ask for your sympathy. It will demand your attention. Because once you understand what the Duttons endured in this year, you will never see the Yellowstone Ranch the same way again.